4.7 billion euros in net profit in just 1 year. That isn't the balance sheet of a Silicon Valley tech giant. That's not Tesla. That's not Apple. That's not some revolutionary startup disrupting an industry. It's the result of a company that controls roads you have to use. While you're stuck in traffic, paying for every mile, fumbling for coins at the toll booth, checking your bank account to see if you can afford the highway this month, you're feeding an invisible empire. Welcome to the world of forever concessions. Today, we reveal how companies like Vinci turned your mobility into a private cash machine, and why governments stand by and watch while your daily commute becomes a dividend for anonymous investors. If you think tolls are just a fee for asphalt, you haven't read the fine print of the architects of power. Let's dive in. The architecture of a monopoly. To understand the heist, we have to go back to the 1990s. Governments were broke, roads were decaying, and corporations arrived with a tempting offer that sounded too good to be true. We'll build your highways, and it won't cost you a dime. The magic word was PPP, public-private partnership. The state got rid of the debt. Construction firms got work. Politicians got ribbon-cutting photo ops. But hidden in the fine print was the real price: total control over cash flow for half a century, 50 years. That's longer than most people work in their entire lives. 2 generations of drivers paying tolls to the same company. Vinci perfected this game. Today, they control nearly half of France's highway network, a network paid for by taxpayers decades ago, now yielding profits like a newly discovered oil field. And here's the brilliant part: they didn't build unproven infrastructure. These were highways the government already knew were essential. Routes drivers had no choice but to use. Vinci just said, "We'll maintain what you already built," and got handed a 50-year monopoly on one of the most profitable captive markets in existence. The rent-seeking scandal. What Vinci does is what economists call rent-seeking. They aren't creating new value. They aren't innovating. They're just sitting at the gate charging for something that has to exist. It's like a private tax on breathing, only it's for driving. Remember the bridge monopoly we covered? One viewer commented, "They didn't build the economy, they just kidnapped it." That is exactly what is happening here. On a global scale, profit margins on highways often exceed 50%. Most businesses dream of 10%. Tech companies celebrate 20%. Vinci is pulling 50% on roads you have to use. Why? Because maintenance is predictable. Asphalt doesn't change. Repairs are routine, but toll prices rise almost every year, often pegged to inflation, regardless of actual road quality, regardless of whether maintenance was even needed. When inflation hits 8%, your toll goes up 8%. But did maintenance costs go up 8%? Did the value increase 8%? No. The road is the same. Same potholes, same congestion, same exits. But the price goes up, because the contract says so. And you have no choice. The untouchables. So why doesn't the state just cancel these deals? This is where it gets chilling. Companies like Vinci are legally better protected than most governments. These contracts contain poison pills, billions in compensation if terminated early. France tried to renegotiate some highway concessions a few years ago. Just renegotiate, not cancel. Just adjust the terms to be slightly less extractive. Vinci threatened to sue for lost future profits, not actual losses. Future profits they hadn't even made yet. Profits they claimed they would have made over the next 30 years. The estimated legal liability? Over 40 billion euros. The government backed down. Private arbitration courts, often behind closed doors, decide the fate of nations. If a state tries to lower tolls to help citizens during an economic crisis, they get sued for destroying shareholder value. This is the true architecture of power. Contracts that stand above the law. Agreements that bind governments more tightly than constitutions bind citizens. Think about that power dynamic. You break a contract with your landlord, you get evicted. A government breaks a contract with Vinci, they face 40 billion in penalties and international arbitration that could bankrupt the treasury. When people take to the streets because tolls become unaffordable, because families are choosing between highway fees and groceries, governments just shrug. The contracts are locked in. A privilege no ordinary citizen would ever enjoy. You can't sign a contract that guarantees your income for 50 years regardless of performance. You can't sue your employer for lost future wages if they let you go, but Vinci can, and they will. The future, privatizing life. But highways are just the beginning. Vinci is buying airports, Gatwick in London, Lisbon, parking hubs across Europe, stadiums, convention centers, and they're eyeing water systems. The goal is total infrastructure dominance. Every time you travel, park, attend an event, or even drink water, a piece of your money ends up with the same architects of power. This is the endgame. Not just controlling one type of infrastructure, controlling all of it. Because once you own the infrastructure, people need to live. You don't have to compete. You don't have to innovate. You don't have to provide value. You just collect rent. Forever. We are moving toward a world where public space disappears, where everything becomes a service with a monthly fee, where you don't own anything, you just subscribe to existence. Want to drive to work? Subscription. Want to park? Subscription. Want to fly? Subscription. Want water that doesn't kill you? Subscription. A system designed to make the wealthy wealthier while the middle class pays just to exist. And the beautiful part, from their perspective, is that it's all legal. It's all contracted. It's all protected by international law and arbitration courts that exist specifically to enforce these agreements. You can't vote your way out of a 50-year concession. You can't protest your way out of a legally binding contract. You can't boycott a highway when it's the only route to your job. You're trapped by design. Built with public money, handed to private companies under terms that guarantee profit regardless of performance, protected by contracts governments can't break without financial ruin. 4.7 billion euros in profit from roads that have to exist, that people have to use, that were already built and paid for by taxpayers. That's not business. That's extraction. Mobility should be a fundamental right, a public service that enables economic activity and social connection, not a yield generator for investment funds. But as long as we surrender our infrastructure to private monopolies, as long as we allow 50-year concessions that lock in profit regardless of service quality, we remain the cash cows in their grand design. The 1990s deal looked smart. Governments got new roads without debt. But 30 years later, we're seeing the real cost. An entire generation paying tolls that never end. Profit margins that would make oil companies jealous. And we're just getting started. Because highways were the trial run. Now they're coming for airports, parking, water, every piece of infrastructure you need to survive. The architects of power don't build empires by creating value. They build empires by controlling what you can't live without. And then they charge you for it. Forever. So the next time you're at a toll booth, stuck in traffic, watching your money disappear for a road that hasn't improved in 20 years, remember this. You're not paying for infrastructure. You're paying dividends to investors who own the monopoly on your ability to move, and the contract says they own it for another 20 years. Welcome to the toll trap. The question isn't whether this is sustainable. The question is how long before people realize they've been sold a system designed to extract wealth from the many to concentrate it in the hands of the few. And by the time they do, the next 50-year contract will already be signed.